Got some new stand-up dates I'm excited to tell you all about. On June 19th, I will be at Vernon Speakeasy. The 21st, I will be at Turtle Mountain Brewing. On the 27th, I will be at Unhinged Brewing. On July 2nd, I will be at Berman and Boots. On July 5th, I will be finally returning to Casada's Comedy Club and Cantina for the Comedy Battle. On July 11th, I will be in Santa Fe at the Kava Bar. And on July 17th, I will be at Sushi High in Denver, Colorado. All information for these will be on my Instagram. Hope to see you at a show. Good to meet you.
Very good to meet you too.
I'm very happy to have you here. Another independent candidate. Did not mean to make that typo, by the way. But seriously, thank you for coming in and doing this.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, of course. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I like politics. So
yeah, I'm kind of a political junkie too.
So if you just want to introduce yourself, the party you're affiliated with, and basically what you're running for Albuquerque.
Well, my name is Daniel Chavez, born and raised in Albuquerque. I would say I'm probably like your average American middle-class kid, is the way I would describe me. My dad was a political historian, and he was always super interested in politics. So I naturally had an interest in politics, especially JFK. So I've always had an interest in it. What was the original question?
Yeah. So what party are you affiliating yourself with, and then what are you running for in Albuquerque?
Well, that's interesting. I'm in business, and my uncles are all in business, and I always grew up admiring them. And they always told me, if you're in business, you really have to be a Republican, which there is an argument to be made for that. Because in general, the policies of Republicans generally are favorable to businessmen. I mean, it's just a fact. If you really look at it, if you study it. So I originally, when I was 18, actually went to Highlands University, believe it or not, my first semester in college. My dad, he grew up very poor, and when he went to UNM, he found it totally overwhelming, and he thought a smaller college would be better. And it was not a good choice in my case, but I did go there for one semester, and that was a good experience. So anyway, when I was there, I initially registered as a Republican because I always wanted to go into business, et cetera, et cetera. So I was a Republican for, I don't know the exact number of years, maybe 7 to 10 years. And my father was a Democrat. He was pretty liberal. We used to argue a lot about politics. Now, keep in mind, my family, I have like hardcore Republicans in my family because I have huge families. My mom had 9 brothers and sisters. My dad had 9 brothers and sisters. And I'd say we got super, super liberal people, and super, super conservative people. So I've been hearing all the views my whole life, right? So my father, he's an old school guy, and his father told him that our country is best with a 2-party system. So my father grew up believing that. So he really didn't believe in being an independent. So I figured I think I registered as a Democrat. The Republicans did something to piss me off, and I don't remember what it is, so I registered as a Democrat, okay? So, because my views are just too complicated to fit into any one party, which I think is true for most people probably.
Yeah, most people are being honest with themselves.
If they're being honest, it's just, it's very hard to just fit into one party. So anyway, so I registered Democrat, and I was a Democrat and I would describe myself as a JFK Democrat. So I was a Democrat for, I forget how many years. I'd have to look back, maybe another 10 or 15 years. And I've been in business now in downtown Albuquerque for almost 30 years. So occasionally there's bills that come up in front of the council that affect my business. Well, about 13 or 14 years ago, a bill, I think it's a downtown 2010 plan, came up in front of the council. And
can you explain what that was a little bit for people who don't know what you're talking about?
It was just a bill like implementing a bunch of new laws on downtown businesses and property owners, right? It has a host of regulations, and it was drawn up horribly. Whatever attorney was at the city that drew it up just did a terrible job. Anyway, the law was unconstitutional.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at Chop Chili. Guys, this is personally my favorite chili brand here in the state of New Mexico, and you can find them online at chopchilico.com. You can also find them all across the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Smith's, and a bunch of other stores in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Las Cruces. I believe they're even down in El Paso now. They sell red and green chili, of course. My personal favorite is this blend of red and green, and they also sell online frozen bags of green chili. So again, go to chopchilico.com to get yourself some amazing chili today. Now back to the podcast.
And we knew it at the time. And it's still on the books, actually. It violates the due process clause of the U.S. Constitution and the New Mexico Constitution.
In what way?
Well, what happens in this law, keep in mind, so I buy a parking lot, like I have lot 7, okay? That's on 600 Marquette. It's 22,732 square feet, okay? So this law requires you to put in a certain percentage of landscaping, okay? So if you're lucky, the city will have a buffer zone around your property, okay? And if you go through all the process of getting a variance, if you're lucky, they'll let you plant trees on the city property. That way, you don't have to take your own property. But if you do not have a city buffer, and just because there's a city buffer doesn't mean you can use it. You still have to get special permission for it.
But they're requiring you to have landscaping.
You have to have a certain percentage of landscaping. And
Okay.
see, I forget the percentage, but it's high. So what effectively happens is you have to give up your own property for landscaping that they do not that they do not compensate you for, which you can't do. You can't do that. In this country, if they take something from you, they have to compensate you for it. So this has always been the problem with the law, okay? So my father also owned a couple parcels, okay? I'm passionate about this, so I got off track.
No, you're good. I'm just curious, like, what is, in your
we were
opinion,
talking about what changed me to independent.
right, but what's the justification behind that? Is it like a beautification thing?
Well,
Is it...
I think the justification is, in their eyes, it's beautification, which I actually kind of agree with. If we can make our lots look good, like
Right.
I for instance, I have 26 trees on the 4 parking lots that I have. I mean, they're the most beautiful lots downtown. One parking lot has 14 trees, the other one has 7. And I maintain them. I water them personally myself. I didn't put in an irrigation system. You do not want, if you go down a city street where they just put in beautiful new landscaping, the trees look great. They always put in these drip systems, and they're a disaster. I've never seen a drip system that works.
Yeah.
What happens inevitably is it gets clogged up somewhere, so you have trees dying.
Yeah.
So if you go down anywhere, and they never maintain them. I mean, the contractors will put it in perfect. And they look good for a few years, and then it just goes. It just goes.
So what changed you from Democrat to completely going independent?
I get off.
You're
course.
good. You're good. Yeah, you're good.
So this bill was up in front of the council. I went to speak against it. Other parking lot owners went to speak against it, and nobody listened at all. So it ended up passing, and believe it or not, the only person don't quote me on this, but I think the only Democrat that voted against it was Ken Sanchez. And he was a good Democrat because he was a business owner. So he understood how hard it is and how difficult it is to own a business. And he voted against it. But all the other Democrats, if I recall correctly, voted for it. And it was, you could check my voter registration, but it was either the next day or the next week or the next month, I left the Democratic Party. And even my father, who was, I would say he'd be categorized as a liberal, was really just fed up with the Democratic Party because this was personal. So after that, I've been an independent ever since. So it's been about 13 years. And if you're, I've always been interested in politics, but I've never, particularly been interested in running. I've never really, it's not been my career. But it's a terrible. If you want to be a politician, being an independent's a bad idea. Because if you're going to run for Senate or Congress or governor, you got to be in a party. Yeah. So I just I think when I registered independent, I said, hey, I'm basically never going to run for office. It was kind of my thinking.
So what changed there?
Oh, well, March 3rd is actually what changed that. That's when I decided to run.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you want to run for mayor?
Well, let me tell you what happened. The New Mexico, I'm going to get get?
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah,
I'm
you're
okay.
good.
All
Yeah,
right.
you're good. Yeah.
So the New Mexico Environment, I think it's the New Mexico Environmental Department. They were looking for new office space. Okay. So they put out a bid, RFP, and there were two people downtown that bid for it. Now keep in mind, I have at Sixth Market. I used to have 200 spaces, but I lost a lot of it to landscaping. So I think I had 188 or something spaces directly across the street from 501 Marquette, which is the old Compass Bank building. I think it's the PNC building now. Anyway, the owners approached me and asked me if I could include my properties in a bid to get the environment department downtown, which I was very interested in doing because the downtown is the absolute worst it's ever been in the 30 years I've been in business, and frankly, in the last 60 years, it's the worst it's ever been. So I wanted to get them downtown. And so I wasn't the bidder. I was just like a very minority party in the bid, but I was providing the parking. So I was a very important part of the bid. So I was willing to give up these two parking lots for, I think it was up to 30 years, but I was willing to do it, because if you lease them out for 30 years, we're in the parking business, but one of our main businesses is selling to developers or developing it ourselves. Right. So I was trying to get them downtown. It didn't go downtown. It ended up going to a building in the Heights, the environment department. So downtown lost another anchor that would have helped redevelop downtown. And frankly, the current administration didn't do anything to help downtown and the city to help revitalize it. And that day when I found out that we lost that bid, that's when I decided to run for mayor.
Fair enough.
Because I have literally, there's not an exaggeration, I'm all invested in downtown. Like, I don't own one square. See, in the parking business, if you want to make money, you generally go to bigger cities. You don't really make money in Albuquerque because it's just not a vibrant place. So I'm like all invested downtown, and I've been waiting for it to turn around. It never has. In fact, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's never been worse. Right now, it's the worst it's ever been. And I literally just said, I'm going to try and do something myself, because no administration in all the time I've been downtown has been a good administration, Republican or Democrat. We haven't had any truly regular person in office. Like, I'm the guy that can't get anything done with the city. I'm the guy that even going in to get your business license renewed can be a challenge. It's so badly run. Forget about getting variances. I mean, it is a very difficult place to be in business, and I'm just sick of nothing happening, and that's really why I decided to run.
What I'm curious about too is, let's say you become mayor. Do you have to step away from your current business because you're running a business in the same city that you have leverage over, you have power over? Do you have to give that up?
No.
Like, how does that look?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Of course, I would not be involved in any
Right.
bill that would involve my business anyway. And there's no need to, because my properties that are in downtown proper, they're 100% approved. Every square inch,
Right.
inch is approved.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I've never.
Yeah. So it would never
Interesting.
like these laws that I'm talking about that are still in the books. That, for me, it won't do me any good anyway. Like, I'm
Right.
already done. So I would not be doing anything to help my business. I'm already
Yeah.
approved. And just to let you know, I had to give up. This is a problem with business, and you're a businessman. I would categorize you as. I mean, you have this podcast.
We have very different definitions of businessman, but I appreciate that.
I would categorize this as a business.
I technically have
It
an
is.
LLC. You're right.
Yeah, I would categorize it as a business, right? So I think you have an idea, but this is the problem when government comes after you. And that old saying, "You can't beat City Hall." It's really true, because even though giving up these parking spaces. Which, first of all, I don't mind beautifying the parking lots. I like it. I want my parking lots to look nice. But this is a choice you have to make as a businessman. These clauses violate the U.S. Constitution and the New Mexico Constitution. If you want to fight it, it costs money. So you have to do the calculation. How much is it going to cost me to get this overturned? Yep. And how much am I going to lose in revenue for the parking spaces? And we did the calculations, and we just had to let the government win. Because that's what businesses face every single day.
Yeah.
And if you're a super wealthy person, you can just fight them on forever. And I'm not. So you have to make a choice.
Right.
Yeah. So as businesses are oftentimes left with those choices, and you can't beat City Hall. it is the way it is.
So I do want to get to talking about like what policies you changed, what's important to you, but what's kept you in Albuquerque doing business for so long? Why haven't you been tempted to move to a bigger city and continue doing what you're doing?
Well, I love Albuquerque. First of all, it's my home. In fact, I live in the house I grew up in right now. My family's here. My mother. I was taking care of her for many years because my sister lives. There's two of us. My sister lives in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I live here. So I've been taking care of my mother ever since my sister left. So it's been many, many years. So that's one reason, right? And I have a lot of investment here. I put a lot of money, literal blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, when people say blood, sweat, and tears, I mean, I've literally bled, I've literally sweat, and I've literally cried over some of these things that have gone on, right? So, and a factor of reasons. Now, when my mother decided to move to Wisconsin, that's the only reason right now that I could even possibly consider running for mayor. If my mother was still here, I would not have the time. I've literally been working since the day I announced 16-hour days. And I've lost I don't know, maybe 7 to 10 pounds, was running for, and we haven't even started yet, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm able to do it, one, because my mom chose to move to Eau Claire to be with my sister. And I just feel like I'm really honestly just fed up. Like that video that my advisor produced on TikTok, I mean, that's absolutely the truth. Like I'm just fed up, and I want to try and do something myself.
Fair enough. No, I don't blame you at all. So big investment in downtown, big investment in Albuquerque as a whole. Day one, you get into office. Well, I mean, what's on your mind right now, actually? Like, what is the most, is it crime? Is it homelessness? I know they're very easily connected. Is it city ordinances? Is it the infrastructure? What's the top of your list of things that you have to correct?
Well,
is it leadership?
Leadership. There has been a lack of leadership for at least 8 years and longer, really, going in other administrations. But you bring up a good point. Everything's connected. Homelessness, crime. We need a holistic approach to solve all of these problems. And honestly, crime is obviously number one, but a close second is homelessness. And it is truly an epidemic. It is truly a crisis now. I think it's doubled since the current administration has been in office. I experience it on my parking lots all the time. When someone's camped out on my, keep in mind, I do not believe it's humane for people to just be sleeping on concrete and on the street. But when there's a homeless person on my lot who's not mentally well, I have no choice but to clear them out of there for my customers' safety, right?
Yeah.
And I used to do it myself. I used to ask them nicely, could you move here? Because my parking lots are made for parkers, and a lot of these are young single women and men who it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It could be dangerous for them to be around people with mental challenges. So. I lost track again. I started thinking about something else.
So about you'd have to move homeless people out yourself, and the
let me
issue is
tell you
growing.
what happened to me one time. I asked this homeless lady to move, and she just pulled out this gigantic knife pretty close to me. And I said, after that, now I have to call APD for that, which again takes resources away from APD. They should probably be doing other stuff than clearing out homeless. So homelessness obviously needs to be addressed and in a big way. There has been everything's been like just tiny little solutions, apartment here, apartment there. It needs a complete different type of approach.
What's your solution to homelessness? Where do you even start with homelessness here?
we have a working plan to address this, and part of it involves sleeping capsules. Like in a hotel formation where people can go and sleep safely in an area that's safe, where they can be warm, where they're not on the I mean, my wife and I were on Central just about a month ago on a Friday night, and these poor people are sleeping literally on the concrete on Central in front of the bars. I mean, it's not humane for any human being to be sleeping on the street like that. And the current administration allows it. I don't know for whatever reason, but they literally allow that to happen. Under my administration, that would not happen. We would have a place where they can get help, where they can sleep, where there's and we're still working on a name for it. But that's what we're thinking. We need a completely different approach that's going to help everybody. And the way we want to do it is not just for homeless, okay? Because any of us can, like right now, my air conditioning is out at my house, right? all of us are going to need help at some point. Whether it's our power goes out, we don't have money. We a lot of people are literally paycheck to paycheck, and literally one paycheck from homelessness. Okay, they need a place to go. Okay, these are our friends and neighbors. They need a place to go to get help temporarily. So we're envisioning a place that's not just for the homeless, but for anyone in Albuquerque that's experiencing, their electricity's out for a week or their water's out for a week. We want to do something like that. It's really going to just kind of help the city as a whole. And I've heard of cities, and I just can't think of the names now, where they have literally reduced homelessness by 80%, right? I don't know if we can do it here in Albuquerque, but I want to try. And I want to bring in experts that know more about the situation than I do, and I want to bring them into the mayor's office, and I want to say, in business, it's just constantly solving problems. So I want to bring the best people from other cities, people that have done it, and try and implement it here. And if we can, we'll adjust it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll adjust it again. But it has to be solved. You cannot have people sleeping on Central. I can't. I've never seen that before in Albuquerque.
I agree. And so the first thing that comes to mind is how you get something like that financed, whether it's through the city budget or through private business owners working with them, but also with the homeless problem in New Mexico. Why? I mean, because where my brain goes is it's either negligence on part of the mayor's office, just negligence. Either it's complete incompetence, or they don't want to do anything about it, or something along those lines, or it's they're choosing to not do anything about it. Why do you think something like this is being allowed to proliferate?
Well, it could be a combination of the above. First of all, I think the current administration lacks any management experience or ability whatsoever, and not just in the homeless area, but many areas. That is really the problem. I mean, there's just not. They're not administrating right. There is no administration no proper administration of how to deal with these current problems. And as far as paying for it, we're spending a huge amount on homelessness now. I don't have the figures in front of me, but that we need to switch all of that money into what we're talking about. And we still haven't come up with a working title. But like I said, I want a place where anyone can go for help. And obviously, the first on the list of those experiencing homelessness, and I want it to be a place where they can get resources, where they can seek mental. A lot of these people are just literally mentally they need help. They need resources, and we need more. I think we need more not mental. Not mental. What's a word I'm looking for? Places to treat people with mental illness. There's obviously not enough, but we have to solve it one way or another. I mean. This cannot never. When I was in my 20s, we would hang out in Central all the time. There was DAX, and we would go out, and we never saw homeless people sleeping on Central proper. And it's dangerous for them, and it's dangerous for the kids coming out. Well, I shouldn't call them kids. The young adults coming out of the bar, maybe a little bit tipsy. That's not a good mix.
Yeah, no, I agree. So. Why? Because it's just I haven't heard of it, and it seems clear to me that they're not doing it. Why do you think the current administration is not reaching out to neighboring states that have major cities that have been able to fix their homelessness problem? As you look at, I remember I went to Denver right before the pandemic, and it looked a lot like Albuquerque. Not the best. It looked like they were kind of doing a little bit better. But then I go to Denver. Oh, man, I think I went 2 or 3 years ago, and it just got so much worse. And Albuquerque tends to be about 8 to 10 years behind Denver. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just saw that as that's what we're going to start looking like.
We have to stop it.
So why do you think that consultants from out of state haven't been asked to come in? If you're putting yourself in the mayor's shoes, is it because one person or a team of people can only do so much, but it doesn't look like they're doing anything?
To be honest, I'm going to just be honest and frank here. There's no leadership. I don't think.
It just comes down to incompetence.
Yeah. Honestly, yes.
Fair enough.
And to be honest, you're dealing, I'm a businessman and I'm a small business owner. And, if you know business, it is a battle, constant battle. And I'm not kidding. It's a battle. I've been in battle basically for 25 years, fighting City Hall, when they're coming up with unconstitutional whatever. I don't think the current administration cares. I think I think it's it's like I have no desire for people to call me mayor, right? I think the current administration likes all the pomp and circumstance. Like I want to get to work. Like I don't want to go to ribbon cuttings. I'll go to a ribbon cutting ceremony if it's a small business owner and they ask me personally and it's like they really want me there. Then I'd be happy to go. But I don't want to go to a ribbon cutting for this massive company that we just brought into the city. If my staff forces me to go, I'll go. But I don't. That's not what a mayor's supposed to do. A mayor's supposed to start fixing problems. I have no desire to go to ribbon cuttings. I have no desire to go to all the parties and be called mayor. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in fixing problems.
Yeah, I don't find that I have too much in common with Mayor Keller. But I'm a big fan of heavy metal too. Don't get me wrong. If I was the mayor and I had the opportunity to bring up some of my favorite bands on concert,
we'll put him at 1 on the heavy metal, right? Because I like some heavy metal too.
So I would do that too. But also, it's like, don't you have time to do other things? Like, shouldn't you be doing more important things than bringing up Pantera?
People are experiencing real problems, and I'm a huge music fan. Like I'm a spectrum, right? Like I like some heavy metal, I like almost everything. So, but we got real problems, and they need to be fixed. You need these problems fixed so you can enjoy hanging out, listening to your music, right? I mean, the city has never been worse, to be honest.
I'd have to agree. With homelessness, there comes crime, and with crime comes APD. That was the big thing that Keller ran on, especially the first time, was reforming APD. Clearly, APD has not been reformed. No. It's gotten worse. And the only thing that I've seen that they've tried to do to rebuild, or not even rebuild APD, but just make it more enticing to join, is raising the salaries, which again, I'm cool with. If you have more money to pay cops, to pay firefighters, paramedics, whatever, allocate that money. That's great. But even with, I think the starting salary at APD after probation is about 60, 65, which is a solid salary.
Yeah, it's actually not bad at all.
And they still can't meet recruiting numbers. Wherever you want to start first, whether it's APD or crime, but I mean, if you want to start with crime, what do you do to lower violent crime statistics? If you fix APD, what do you do to reform APD?
Well, I think we'll start with APD. First of all, we need a new, eventually, administratively wise, we're going to have to look at changes, okay? But we need someone in charge who is like my father. It's going to be hard to find. My dad actually, he was a military guy. You were in the military, right?
Yeah, I did some time in the Guard.
Yeah. My dad, he was in the Navy. He went through OCS, and he was a very honest person. I mean, honest to almost a fault. He was an administrator at UNM, and he literally wouldn't take pencils from the office or paper from the office because he thought it was just not right. Well, and my father was also tough as nails. He grew up in poverty. My 9 uncles, they literally all grew up in one bedroom, believe it or not. I had one aunt who had her own bedroom. And they all grew up fighting. They're from the South Valley, and they were all fighters. My dad was like a Golden Gloves boxer. He was very good. And he was tough as nails and straight as an arrow. That's the kind of leadership I want at APD. So I think it starts there. And then you have to, being a police officer is a very honorable profession. I mean, you literally are putting your life on the line. So they not only pay, they need to feel good about the department they're working for. That's the problem now. They need a leader who's a real leader, and I mean straight as an arrow, as far as somebody in charge.
And this is going to come out after this weekend. I'll put this out on Monday for the podcast release. But this weekend, allegedly, there are going to be a lot of protests going against Donald Trump, going against ICE, immigration. Speaking strictly on the protests themselves, if you were mayor right now, how are you preparing APD? How are you working with surrounding law enforcement like BCSO, staters, U.S. Marshals? How are you working with other police departments or policing agencies to properly prepare for these protests that may or may not through various channels turn into riots.
Well, obviously, I'm not an expert on how to handle protests, but I can tell you this: I do not think we should have the military on the streets. I don't think the National Guard even should be on the streets right now. I think the APD, the Sheriff's Department, and the state police are perfectly capable of handling protests themselves. As far as the mechanicals, I'll leave it to the experts, and if on how to handle them. But I don't believe I just don't believe in the military being on the ground in the U.S. cities.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, I'm pretty torn on it because obviously I don't think we're going to ever get to the levels of L.A. Just because even with the in 2020 when COVID was happening and the George Floyd riots were happening, we had some protests that got a little iffy, but they weren't too crazy. My favorite thing was watching videos of John Jones running around ripping cans of spray paint out of people's hands. Say what you want about that guy. He's got some skeletons in his closet. Yeah. But watching Albuquerque Batman run around trying to
Yes, I remember that. I remember that. Protesting. Yes. Well, I'm curious. Like you have military experience. I don't.
Yeah.
What is your view on the military being involved on the streets regarding protests?
Well, we have a National Guard for a reason. And the National Guard's function is to protect the homeland. That is their function. Now, since obviously GWAT started and they've been deploying the National Guard to the Middle East, I mean, I went over to Africa. I mean, I understand the reasoning for that. I get it. But as far as domestically speaking, I understand why the Trump administration called in the Marines. I get it because you have major Marine bases right outside of LA. You have 29 Palms. You have the really big one. I had a few buddies that were stationed there. I'm losing the name right now. It's kind of embarrassing. But you have another major military base there. You have a major naval base to the south in San Diego. So I get it. I get why he did it because they went through the 2020 riots. And a big reason, in my opinion, why he didn't get reelected amongst all the COVID stuff was how they did not handle those riots. They kind of just let them happen. And the response did not, at least to the public, it wasn't as swift as it should have been.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think there are circumstances where obviously it would be necessary to bring up the National Guard.
Right.
Right? I mean, if it got completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean, if you have people setting cop cars on fire and destroying businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, killing people in the streets, whether directly or negligently, that's when you call in the National Guard. So I understand why they went straight to the Marines. And they're like, okay, no, we're not playing this game because last time we did too little and this is how it turned out for us.
But they went to some pretty hardcore Marines, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that are just like ready for.
Well, they didn't send in like MARSOC or anything like that, but they sent in now granted, infantry Marines are some of the most disgusting people I've ever met in my life, and I love them to death. But yeah, they went straight to active duty infantry Marines, from what I understand, in their rear detachment regiments. And I mean, I get it. I mean,
they're ready to handle anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's a bit of an overcorrection, but again, I get it. But if you were mayor, are you tapping into surrounding police forces?
Well,
proactively make sure that if this decides to get out of hand, we're there to stop it?
Well, let me just go back a little bit. When I was talking about the National Guard, I was talking about how they brought them in currently. Without a crisis.
So, I mean, it's interesting because the headlines are running that the National Guard will be on the streets in New Mexico. But then when you really look into what they're doing,
it's really just support.
Yeah, it's more administrative. Like, they're not going to be walking around carrying rifles. From what I read, they're mostly going to be at DUI checkpoints, doing support for APD. Honestly, I would be shocked if they were actually wearing uniforms, like if they were wearing like camo and all that. And then they're going to be training APD on how to use their drones properly. And then they're also calling in the National Guard for support for some administrative thing. But when you see that in the headline, everyone thinks there's going to be military on the street. But it's the same. I equate it to because I had a lot of buddies that went and did it when they called in the National Guard on the border. And everyone thought, oh, they're going to have the military on the border gunning down people that are trying to come in. Not at all.
Not
the
case.
reason why they called them the National Guard was that they could step in and do office work so that the Border Patrol agents that were stuck doing office work because of the low manpowers were relieved from that to actually be in the field. So I kind of equated to that. Crime. Where, again, just like with homelessness, where do you even start with violent crime? Because you have violent crime, you have auto crime as well. Theft is up like crazy. Property damage is up crazy. Drugs are clearly at the center of a lot of this. Gangs, cartels. As the mayor, your number one job is public safety. How do you bring down violent crime?
Well, first of all, I keep hearing about this list that currently, I think it's a list of misdemeanors that the police are ordered not to enforce. I've asked for the list and I haven't seen it yet. The police should be able to enforce all the laws, okay, misdemeanors included, and that will change immediately with my administration. So again, we need to make the police force a place people want to work. Okay, like when I was young, a friend of mine, me and a friend went to the FBI. I think it was a Hispanic local man in charge at the time, and he wanted us to join. We had just gotten our bachelor's, and we kind of considered it for a while because I could have been drawn into something like that, right? It needs to be addressed by enforcing all the laws, and I mean even the smaller ones, because the smaller ones I think lead to bigger ones if you don't. Someone trespassing on your property, that should be enforced. All laws should be enforced. And if there is, I haven't seen, if there is I hear there's too much paperwork right now for the officers to go through, then let's look at that. Let's see if we can, reduce the paperwork. Why should there be so much paperwork, right? They should be doing their job, right? They should be allowed to do their job. I do not believe in handcuffing the police. On the same hand, I want them to respect civil rights and respect our constitutional rights, and I want the few bad cops out too, and there's a few. I have a few friends who are police officers, and we want, it's a problem for them too. They don't want them there, so that's difficult to do. It's very difficult to and it's not even it's not even against the police. Any profession. There's going to be a certain percentage that just shouldn't be there.
Yeah, you have bad plumbers.
Yes, and
you have bad electricians
and bad businessmen.
Yeah,
there's some businessmen that have no business being in business, right? So I think the police force is like any other profession, and you just want to get that part out.
You mentioned earlier about with the homelessness issue, reallocating funds to the right areas.
Absolutely.
Do you take that?
Well, not the right areas.
Well, the right projects.
Right projects.
Right
yes,
projects.
Yes.
Do you take that same mindset and apply it to APD? Whereas, because I always thought that, especially with something like policing, if you want better police, you spend more money on them, training them properly, hiring the right people, so on and so forth. Is that something? How do you feel about stuff like that?
Well, that's another thing. That's another reason I'm not a big fan of the National Guard helping the police, because they don't have the same training, right? I mean, ideally, I would like more police officers with the same training, handling what they can handle. I think APD is probably capable of handling most everything, right? But if we would, I would gladly, help from the sheriff's department or state police if necessary, right? But I think they should handle it themselves, and they need more officers. I don't care how fast you train the National Guard; they're not going to have the same training the APD had for whatever,
I agree.
Whatever problem you're dealing with.
So do you, as far as like, I know we're talking about crime, but because the way you lower crime is having a better police department, do you put more funds into their training? Do you pay police officers, give them more benefits? Do you incentivize people to come into the department?
Well, obviously, the more pay, the better, right? Because you're going to have limits, obviously, with the city budget. But I want to make it a place where people want to work. Right now, they don't want to work there. I mean, I hear a lot retired. Recently, a lot have retired. I want to make it a place where they're proud to work, and I want to really push community.
How do you do that?
Well, I think we're going to have to look at new leadership. We're going to have to look at top down. We're going to have to make it a place where people are proud to work, and I want to integrate community policing. I want the officers to know the people in their community. I don't want people to be afraid. Whenever a police officer, I'm 55, right? you think I should not be nervous if a police officer pulls up behind me, right? But I'm like everyone else. You get a little nervous when a police officer pulls up behind you, right? I don't want people to be scared of the police, and I don't want people to be scared of the administration either. Right now, there's business owners, and I mean big business owners, people you would never think would ever be afraid of an administration, right? Who are currently afraid of the administration. I don't want anyone to be afraid of me as a mayor. I want them to just be able to come talk to me. Obviously, I won't be able to talk to everybody, but I'd like to, because I've been in their place. I've been in their place where nobody will listen. I know what it's like. I've dealt with the city for over 25 years. No, I don't think anyone, I'm sure there might be some, but I have extreme experience dealing with the terrible management of the city. And it's never been that good, Republican or Democrat. It's never been that good. And that brings up something else. You know, we're dealing with career politicians. We currently have a career politician in the office, and it's just not working. He's had 8 years. Things have actually gotten worse. We need something different. And I know a lot of business people say you need business people in there. Yeah, you need business people, but you need good business people in there, right? Like, just having a business person in there ain't going to do it. You need the right business person.
Yeah, you can't have me in there.
Well, no, you're in business as far as I'm concerned.
You can't have me in there.
I don't know. You're very open to a lot of ideas. I think you do great.
Oh, I appreciate that. So a lot of this, when it went down in like 2018 into 2021, some of it was at the state level, some of it was at the city level. Bail bonds. Mm-hmm. Do you make an effort to bring that back into Albuquerque's system? And the reason I ask is because you brought up a little bit earlier about every law needs to be enforced. And I completely agree with that. It's very much like the military. One of the military's theologies is that, well, if you get the little things right, make your bed properly, put your uniform together properly, you clean your weapon properly, then you can follow instructions properly. That means you can train properly, you fight properly. It's a building up scenario.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of my favorite books that I'm actually reading now. I think it's General McCraven. He says the book is titled "Make Your Bed."
Yeah,
and he talks about how
the Navy general.
Yeah. He says that making up your bed in the morning is a very important because you finish the first task of the day. Right. I mean, like someone like that. Like I really would someone like that in a leadership position. I would love to have
get him on your campaign trail.
Exactly. I would because and then my dad was a Navy man. I really appreciate his he gave the speech for a commencement address that I've listened to that a few times. That was a heck of a address.
So, and the reason why I bring up the bail bond stuff is you start arresting the police start arresting more people. That means more people. If bail bonds was there, they'd probably need that more. And what I understand is the reason why they got rid of it, the argument behind it was that it was hurting poor people, which made zero sense to me.
Yeah, that should have stayed in place.
So do you have an effort to bring bail bonds back?
I wish it had never been changed. I don't know how much power I have to bring it back, but I wish it had never been changed. I think it's Gerald Madrid. I saw a few interviews with him, and he explained the whole process, and it was a long time ago, so I need to study up on it. But it should not have been changed. It really has caused problems.
No, I agree. And because I'm not going to exactly give it away, but someone very close to me knows people that were in the bail bonds industry, and they just explained to me how it all went down and why it went away. And then now that ended up leading into the ROR system that we have now. I'm not running for mayor. I'm not going to be the mayor anytime soon, if at all, but I look at something like the ROR, the release on recognizance, for people who don't know what I'm talking about. That's how you breed repeat offenders.
Absolutely.
Do you start getting rid of ROR? Do you start getting rid of having, whether it's I guess what they consider now lower crimes like theft, aggravated assault, DUI? You have people that are 4, 5, 6-time offenders. What do you do to?
I just astonished when I hear about that. I hear about some of these people being arrested 28 times, and they're still out. I want it back. So the way it was.
So what do you do to get rid of how do you stop breeding repeat offenders?
Well, I mean, there has to be accountability
as a mayor, as much as you can do.
Well, for anyone who does something wrong, right? there has to be accountability. If there's no accountability, it's going to keep going, and it's going to get worse. So I would do everything in my power, lobbying-wise, whatever influence I have, and I'm sure as mayor, people will listen to a little bit more than right now, right? I would lobby for reform and to try and get back to where we used to be. And I would talk to experts again, because like Gerald Madrid, he's very close to one of my properties. In fact, I used to have a parking lot next to him. He's an expert, right? So I want to bring him in. I want to bring in other experts and say what needs to be done, and what can I do to help reform this? Because we all want to live in a safe city. We want it to thrive. I want, downtown is very important, because that's where when you're from out of town, you go to the downtown, right? So all of Albuquerque needs to be helped, but especially downtown, because it helps the whole city.
Yeah.
Right. So downtown is very, very important, and that's not because my business is there, just because that's where everyone goes when you go out of town. I mean, you go to downtown, and you want to experience downtown. That's where you go to really get to know a city. If I go into Denver, I want to go straight downtown. I want to go to the bars downtown. If I go into Dallas, I want to go to the bars downtown. And now people don't even want to go downtown. When I was in my 20s, we always thought Albuquerque was going to get better, right? We were living in the heyday in my 20s, and we never realized it. That was as good as it was going to get. And we always thought it was going to get better. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. The businesses around me, their business has literally been declining every year. There's a restaurant downtown that my family from Denver used to always go eat at. I forget the name of it, a Mexican restaurant. They couldn't even make it. They had to. I mean, you need business. You need small businesses.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about before we wrap up, is because of your background in business as a mayor, what do you do to help local businesses thrive and then incentivize others to start their own business?
Well, I actually think that's pretty easy, and nobody's done it yet, which is astonishing to me. You need a planning director who is in the private sector. Okay, you need someone who knows business in and out, and I mean someone really good. And you need to ask them to sacrifice. Like, let me just tell you right now, I have no need to run for mayor. I have a very nice life. In fact, it's been very costly and difficult to run for mayor, right? So I want to ask somebody else to sacrifice 4 years of their life, become the planning director. And right now, when you go in to open up a business, they are, I can't speak for everybody, because there's obviously certain, you're going to find certain staffers who are very helpful. I've run into some, and I try to remember their name whenever I run into a good staffer, because I want to remember this name, because I want this person like in a supervisory position, because he's good, right?
Keeping you, firing you,
exactly.
keeping you.
Exactly. So we need a planning director. We need someone from the private sector who's willing to sacrifice 4 years of their life, go in there, and I wanted to make it. I want the attitude from that department has to be, how do we help this person that just walked into the planning department? How do we help him open his business? Okay? Right now, when you go in there, that mean person behind the desk, and it might be a woman, it might be a man, you never know who it is. A lot of the times, they're there to stop you. They want to say, you need this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. It should be, this is what you need. Go do this. Go talk to this person. Get this done, and then I can get you through the process. Okay. So we need someone there that's going to help small businesses open up, and you need a top to down change of attitude, and it never happens. These mayors, they never go down to the nitty gritty. I will go down to the planning department and be there on the floor, and I want to see how they interact with, whoever comes in and get a business license.
And then that's what I was going to ask too, is you bring up a planning director. What is your vision for what the planning director should be doing outside of the administrative, what you just explained? Like, what is their direct effect on the city? Because these are some of the inner workings of government, the inner workings of business that a lot of people either just don't understand, or if they are interested in getting into business, they're interested in starting their own small business. Like you said, they go to an office like, well, you can't do this, and this is a no, and this is that, and the other. It's a lot of barriers. Like, there's so much you have to know.
Oh, it's incredible.
And understandably so. Like, you should be on your stuff.
We
so
want
you run a business.
safe businesses, right?
Right.
We
and
want
you want
regulations.
thriving businesses.
Yes, and we want thriving businesses.
What is your vision for a planning director under you as a mayor? Like, what are you wanting them to execute? And again, what is their direct effect on the city of Albuquerque?
Well, like I said, I think the direct effect is literally helping people get through the process, which is not being done now. Maybe it is on some levels. I'm sure there's some people who are very helpful, right? But let me tell you, my friend Doug Peterson, I heard a podcast with him last week, and I learned a few things in that podcast. He was telling me how it just takes forever to get building permits in this town. Why does it take forever? Why don't we make it like why don't we have a policy where we have to issue it in 10 days or a week, or some cities like have laws like that, like you have to issue it, so we have to issue them fast. Right. Now, why are we not issuing them fast? Do we need more staff? I want to find out. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask my new director, why does it take 60 days? I mean, why does it take 6 months? Why in the world does it take 7 months to get a permit to remodel a bathroom? Right?
Why do you need a permit?
Why do you even need a permit? Let's look at that first.
That's the libertarian in me.
Yeah.
Is like, if I own a business or if I own a building, the government goes away. Like,
government,
anything inside my building, as long as it's legal, and I'm not doing anything to break the law. If I want to paint my stuff pink, go away. That's
the government regulations is astonishing, actually, if for small businesses. Okay, so a lot of those, obviously, that's a whole nother issue about repealing. Like, in a perfect world, I would actually like to go through every single law on the books with expert lawyers, because we have some horrible lawyers at the city. I've dealt with them. I mean, horrible. Go with constitutional, very smart lawyers, and look at all the books, all the laws we have on the books. Go through every single one. Is this constitutional? The first thing we should get rid of all unconstitutional laws, or at least amend them, right? That would probably eliminate a lot of the regulations in place, right?
Is that something that you're doing, that you would help advise and affect on a state level, because you're the mayor, or I imagine you have a direct effect on, like, city ordinances.
I have.
You know what I mean?
I want the whole state to thrive, right? So if I have a little bit of lobbying power with whoever, I'll use it to help the city. If the governor talks to me, I'll talk to her and say, can we do something to improve this? I live here. I want to make not Albuquerque great. I want to make the state strong.
Yeah, and Albuquerque needs to be. It's
really in dire straits right now. It's not even a exaggeration. It is the worst it's ever been. Even in my neighborhood, I've had people, homeless people who should have a house. They need help. I mean, they're in our neighborhood. We need to get help for these people. It's inhumane what's happening right now.
Well, because Albuquerque should be almost a control study for the greater New Mexico, because we are the major metropolis. We are the biggest city.
We're the biggest city.
This should be where the spotlight is on, where it's like, okay, what's working here, spread out otherwise. And it just seems to me that there is a great disconnect between the mayor's office and the governor's office. Even though they're on the same side of the aisle, at least in the public eye, and as far as the public knows, they share the same values politically. It just seems like there is a huge disconnect.
Well, you bring up a good point, and maybe that's why the current administration did not lobby to get the environment department downtown. That should have gone downtown. We need jobs downtown. It didn't go downtown. Maybe he doesn't talk to the governor. I don't know, right?
Who does he talk to?
I don't know. I mean, he cuts a lot of ribbons. A lot of ribbons. I have never seen. I'd like to do a study of it. I don't think we've ever had a mayor that has cut so many ribbons. And I don't know. That's not work to me. I don't want to cover.
So no scissors in your mayor's office.
I mean, my God, if they force me to go to one, or if it's a real legitimate small business who would like me there because they did a lot of hard work to get it open, I'd be happy. But I'm not interested in going to a ribbon cutting ceremony for some huge corporation that just is going to put up an In-N-Out burger or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, and I want In-N-Out burger. Don't get me wrong.
I want In-N-Out burger, man.
I want In-N-Out burger too. But what I'm saying is, why are we only going to these big corporations? A mayor should be going to the smaller people. They're the ones that need help, not these big corporations. Right. They have lobbyists and money. They could do it without the mayor, right? We need to help the small guy, because I've been the small guy my whole life.
I agree. So last thing I want to ask you about, You're running as an independent.
Yes.
Very hard to do. Very challenging to do. I think we're going to see in the next 20 years or so, I think the pendulum's going to swing a little bit. The two-party system's not going to go anywhere, but we're going to see more and more people with the rise of social media, the rise of podcasts, political podcasts. People are going to start realizing that they're not alone. And it's like you said in the beginning that, hey, I take a little bit from the right, take a little bit from the left, but for the most part, I'm kind of just in the middle.
Yeah.
But right now where we're at, it's a very challenging thing to do to run as an independent. I respect you for doing it because that means I think it's honest. How do you unseat a liberal mayor in a very liberal city, in a very liberal state, where we're very entrenched in the Democratic Party, but most people in Albuquerque don't vote. The last time I looked at the voting statistics was for the governor's race, I think 3 years ago, whenever Ronchetti was running against Grisham. And it was only like 33 or 35% of registered Republicans voted, and about 42 to 44% of registered Democrats voted. What do you do? How do you unseat a mayor that's clearly entrenched, and how do you get people to not only just vote in general, but vote and support an independent candidate?
Well, let me tell you, I think the current mayor is very unpopular. I think we have that going for us. And let me tell you, I don't know if you know, but we actually qualified for the ballot before the current administration.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Got your 3,000.
I got my 3,000 before. Now, keep in mind, this administration, they have everything in place, right? I'm a political novice. I haven't held office before. So I beat a professional politician who this is his area of expertise. I beat him to the ballot. Okay, so whenever I saw problems, I find the best way to do it, and I did. And I found a way to beat him to the ballot.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
We went for as many signatures as possible. We were not interested in verifying at the time. And by the way, if anyone running for office, if getting your own signatures is the most inefficient way in the world. You want other people getting your signatures. Because when you're trying to get signatures, people ask you questions, and it's a very inefficient way to get. So you need a lot of people. You need to organize. That was getting me to another point about how do I do it. Well, I've already put $100,000 of my own money into the campaign. And the truth is, it's a very unfair system. If you don't have at least $100,000 in your bank account, you can't even get started, okay? Because you can't use someone else's money.
Well, never get into politics?
Yeah. The only way you can really get started is if the parties are backing you.
Right.
Like you were saying, like if the governor's backing you, or the Democrat Party's backing you, or you have your own system in place, like the current mayor. So my plan to beat him is simply get my message out there about what I want to do, and I obviously need to raise money. I'm going to get into that very soon. And, I'm looking for all contributions, $5, $10, bigger contributions to people who can do it. My dad never made a lot of money. So when my dad gave a $50 contribution, that was a lot, right? But a $5,000 contribution to somebody else is like equal to my dad's $50 contribution, right? So I need to concentrate on fundraising, and I am going to win this race, and I will put whatever it takes to win, and that includes my personal funds, because that is almost the only way to get your message out there, because I am unknown. I'm literally an unknown. So to get your message out there just costs money. There's no way around it. So I would love to get thousands of small contributions. That would be my ideal way to go. Right? $5, $10, $50, that would be ideal. But obviously, I'm not going to turn down bigger contributions because, like I said, a $5,000 contribution from one person is equal to a $50 contribution from my dad, right? And I've been in both places. I've had years where I sold a property and I had very good income, right? I'm like, I can help out this person a little more, right? I can give a little more. Then I had other years where I've had losses. Right. So the years where I have losses, you'll be lucky to get a $50 contribution out of me. Right. So we just need we need contributions, and I'm also, like I said, I'm ready to put in more money if I have to. Sure.
And I know I said this was my last question, but one of the things that I'm asking all the candidates that I have on is if you could have a one-on-one conversation like this with Keller, what is one thing that you would ask him?
Oh, what would I ask Keller? My question to him would be simple. Why in the world are you running for a third term? I was actually, I honestly was I was shocked when he was going to run for a third term. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That's my question for him.
That's a solid question because I have the same one. If I get to sit down with him, that's going to be one of them.
Yeah, that'd
for
be first.
Sure.
But beyond that, I have about 100 others. But that is absolutely the first
What would be
question.
the second question?
Oh my gosh, Tim, you need to be honest with the public. He sends out all these text messages and emails.
Yeah, I hate him. I get the calls.
Yeah, even I get them. Like, why is he sending them to me? Right? I'm running against him. And he keeps telling this is what the citizens should know in Albuquerque. He keeps telling everybody that he is not doesn't hold what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody has influence over him because he's publicly financed. Nothing could be further from the truth. He receives money from measure finance committees. Okay, these finance committees are funded by very wealthy people who support him, and a lot of them are very good friends with him, and they give him a lot of money. So if he truly wants to run on public funds, then he should tomorrow tell all of the citizens of Albuquerque that he's going to tell all of the measure finance committees to stand down and actually truly run on the 750,000. I ask him. I challenge him right now to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I would have the same question as well. If you're so supported and loved by the people you've been governing over, pretty much, right? Helping, keeping safe, that you're supposed to be doing as a mayor. If all of that is going so well, should be organic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And why was
theory.
And why was I first on the ballot? Like, that tells you how anxious people are for change, right? But really, that is the big lie that these, and it's not just Tim. It's not public financing. If true public finance would be, there could be no measure finance committees. That's where they're getting their money, and that's how they're winning. So people need to know the truth, and it's frankly untruthful to say he's running with public funds. It's just not true.
No, I agree. Well, congratulations on getting all 3,000.
Thank you. We were going for it, but we were even a little ahead of our schedule, so we're very proud of that.
Congratulations to that. I'm very interested to see who is, because when's the cutoff day? Is the 21st?
It's coming up. It's like next Sunday, I think.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see who's going to make it and who's not.
Me too.
I'm interested to see how this whole just election cycle goes for mayor. If they do debates, I'll definitely be there. I'll sit in the back, but I'll watch. Very excited to see how all this pans out for, all of you guys.
Me too. I'm very excited. I'm actually having a lot of fun.
Yeah, very interested to see how this all turns out. Where can people go to, what's your website, social media? Where can people go to find you, to support you, donate, support the campaign, support what you're doing?
Well, Chavez for Mayor would be your first stop, because all of our social media is at the bottom. You can just click on it. And it's real easy. It's Chavez with a Z.
Cool.
Chavez for Mayor. So everything's there. My not my detailed stances are there, because we're formulating a lot of them as far as the homeless. But you can get a real feel for what I believe in. And
you can leave it. I'll take it later.
I'm really just a practical person that wants to get things done, which is what I've done in business my whole life.
Perfect. Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming and doing this. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Campaign advisor, for hanging out. One word answer before we get out of here, because we were talking about it before we started. Who's the best Batman? One answer.
Oh, man. Michael Keaton.
Fair enough. I respect that. All right.
Well, he's got the eyes. He's got the eyes.
All right. Thank you very much for doing this.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you like what you've seen here, please share it with as many people as possible. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really does help out the podcast. And if you're feeling extra generous, feel free to subscribe to our Patreon, which I have coming soon.